So yeah, I went there and I had the most intense dying through pain, letting go of the pain of existence to fully live experience. Um,
Wow.
where I came out of it like or I spiraled down into information. The first thing when I let go of life was like something telling me, it was like, finally, we were waiting for you for so long. Like this was for you. This was waiting for you for the longest time. And then finally you made it. It was literally like you've been chosen to do this, to wake the fuck up.
Welcome to Season 5 of the Drawing from Experience podcast.
Your source of relatable advice for the everyday artist.
We want you to pick up your pencils, pick up your paintbrush,
pick up your instrument, or whatever it is that you create with. Because let's face it,
this world is so much better with your art in it.
Whether you're an artist looking for more inspiration,
or an art enthusiast that loves to hear about the creative process,
you've come to the right place.
My name is Shane Izykowski.
And I'm Stefania Medeiros.
And this is the Drawing from Experience podcast.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stefania Medeiros.
And I'm Shane Izykowski.
Today, we have a very special guest. We just interviewed Nychos. And
Nychos.
Yes. And we are excited to speak to Nychos specifically at this time because he has an upcoming show coming up, The Awakening, which is going to be beginning on February 22nd. And I think he mentioned this is going to be going on for a few months.
Yeah.
I think this was a really exciting interview. And after listening to Nychos speaking about his own personal experiences and learning more about his transformation throughout his career, he brought such a great energy to this conversation, and I think we'll have a whole lot to learn and share about Nychos through this interview. And I'm more excited than ever to see how this show goes for him as well.
Yeah, me too. And this conversation that we had with him was just like, I feel a little healed or something from it. He's a healer. He had
that healing energy.
Yeah.
I mean, and if for those of you who do check out the video too, I mean, he brings a presence, even though it's through like this digital format, he has this presence to him that does have that calming effect. And listening to him, it felt like he was speaking from such a raw place as well. And he did have that energy to him.
You know, I feel honored to be able to just have the conversation with him. You know, he's a really down to earth dude, but I know that he's got so much stuff to take care of right now. So the fact that we're able to have this conversation and everything, I'm just like, you know, over the moon that we actually get to have these conversations with these types of artists, and you know, and also just like delve in deeper into the psychology behind why he makes the work that he makes, you know, and also his evolution as an artist. Like his work has changed over the past few years, and to have a little bit of clarity over why is like the really exciting part for me personally. And I feel like for our listeners, they're going to get a lot out of this. So yeah, so why don't we just get on with it? And without further ado, here is our interview with the amazing Nychos. On today's episode of the Drawing from Experience podcast, we have a very special guest. If you have been living under a rock for the past 10 to 15 to 20 years, it's possible you might not know who this is, but we're going to give you an introduction anyway. We are speaking with Nychos, who is an illustrator, urban artist, and graffiti artist from Austria, with the main characters in his artwork appearing dissected, transparent, or melting with their anatomical insides displayed. He made a name for himself originally on the streets, tagging walls, and eventually working his way up to large-scale murals and high-profile gallery shows, and is now one of the most sought-after muralists in the entire world. He has founded a collective called Rabbit Eye Movement, which has grown into an international label that produces and distributes art prints, clothing, and accessories of the artist's designs. He's had solo exhibitions in New York, Switzerland, Australia, San Francisco, and soon The Awakening, opening 2/22/22 at Mirus Gallery's brand new location in Los Angeles, which is the main reason we are chatting today. Nychos, welcome to to the Drawing from
Thank
Experience
you.
podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks so much for taking time out of your schedule. We know that it's crunch time for the show. And we just want to start right off and talk about that show, The Awakening at Mirus Gallery. It's a labyrinthian immersive experience. It's not a typical solo exhibition. It's something completely different from what I understand. What kind of overall experience can attendees expect from attending this opening?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, first, if we go through the space right now, just in this conversation, is clearly the first aisle in the end is about the classic work I've been doing, all the dissection anatomy work, which I have been doing for the last 15 years. And so also very classic with any like pop art or other dissection works, things I have been slicing, melting, exploding, stuff like that. So that is more like the path of the introduction, or the classic things people are very familiar with. Especially also most of the stuff has been painted on the streets here and there and all over wherever I had the chance to go.
It seems like you've been everywhere, by the way.
Well, it seems like it. Yes, I have still so many places to go. But yeah, I've been. There was definitely a good amount of time where I was traveling and painting, and it's developed from the graffiti. Just I didn't make any difference between painting those dissected walls of whatever animals or other creatures and painted graffiti, and so it was just a fun and a hell of a ride as well.
Yeah.
I was actually curious, how has the process of preparing for the show been for you? I mean, you've mentioned that you've been preparing for this for potentially years now. So what has that been like, and where are you at now? And now that we're on the last wire of this?
Oh, wow. Yes. Let's say, I meditate a lot, and I have given this a proper thought. So, like, especially the first aisle we were talking about, and which was this classic work I got known for, is like, I understand me dissecting all those characters or animals or whatever. This is me dissecting myself. Like, anatomy was always very interesting to me. Skeletons are super interesting, also from like a painter's perspective in general. And then just being a graffiti writer who likes to paint characters, and then I start opening those characters up and show the anatomy, and I'm like, damn, I feel like I've been dissecting myself here. I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to know more than just the surface, how a character looks like from the outside. So and that clearly like led up to when you like go around into the deeper part of the show, the core of the show, you walk into darkness. So eventually, clearly, when we have opened up all the physical body, it's like, where does it stop? How much detail can I paint? Where does the anatomy of a human being or of a physical body, like, where is it? Or how is it all connected?
Yeah.
Because clearly, like, our body is an amazing machine, but what controls it, and how consciousness itself was suddenly. Consciousness was a huge topic for me, because I got very sick in 2016, literally out of the blue. It was like, boom. I had my show in New York, and after that, my body was just like I felt like I spiraled down into dark places, which I was aware of, but I wasn't really open to look at that. But I mean, as I said, I sliced all the layers away. So I guess it was, the universe was like, I think you have done that show in New York now with all the icons dissected and the very classic work. I feel like you gotta look deeper, and for that it's time to feel the pain. And now, back then I didn't see it that way clearly, but now I understand that this had to happen.
Wow.
And that led up to me understanding that I'm going through this very deep spiritual awakening.
Was this sickness, this health scare that you had, this was caused from exhaustion? Was it also, I had watched this video of yours. I think it was called 1111, and it was about this health crisis that you went through, and you had spoken about your organs essentially like shutting down on you. You know, was this caused from exhaustion? Was it caused from paint fumes? You know, did you ever get any answers like that? And how did you actually end up working through all of that?
So I thought there must be some, let's say, three-dimensional cause of it all. So for the first 2 years, I went to doctors, like especially Western medicine. They were like, "You have nothing. You're in stress," and I'm like, "I'm in stress because all this shit breaks down on me." You know,
Yeah.
I ate food, and 10 minutes later, it literally fell out with a lot of pain, like undigested.
Wow.
And so in the end, well, my stomach didn't work. I had a leaky gut. The whole digestive system didn't function anymore. The gut flora was completely messed up. My immune system clearly didn't exist after that anymore. That, you know, then you spiral down. You know, the next thing comes parasites, for example, or other things, and then it feels like you're starting to rotten from the inside. And I had no clue what the hell was going on. And then I also had an intense like pressure on my head, and also like in my neck, and my whole sinuses felt like there was a lot of stuff there. It was like, where did that come from right now? And I was in Austria after my New York show, and I was already feeling bad, and I painted this huge like translucent snake digesting a rabbit. Oh man, that piece was super fun. But after sketching up, I collapsed on the lift. And
oh my God.
And after that, I slept for like 3 days. And then, from that point, I antibiotics made it worse. And then things just started to happen. And I was on a crusade to find what's actually happening. And then I was like, okay, maybe there is just a lot of things happening at the same time, and too much just piled up. And I went to so many doctors who like looked at my gut, and everyone said like, nothing there. You know, you are fine. And I went to doctors in Europe and in America as well, and it's like nobody could help me. And then eventually I was like, this is stupid. You know, maybe I gotta look into, maybe it's mental. You know, so I was seeking out help with that. I found what I thought was someone like a shrink in Austria. Just kind of came to me as well. And this moment I was like, oh, I'll try this. You know, I was already like aware enough that I was like, okay, if the universe sends this to me, maybe I should look for it. I didn't even think about it in that thought process in that moment, but I kind of went with the flow, and I was like, I'll try this. You know, it worked for me before with other things. Yeah, and I started to work with this person, and still, I mean, it didn't do the magic right away, clearly. I also at some point was like, well, that maybe it's not the answer. And I lived in San Francisco back then, so I flew back and forth between Vienna and San Francisco. And clearly, with a bad immune system, San Francisco is not the place. And again, another thing opened up in LA for a studio space, and I was like, I feel always better in LA because it's nice and warm. You know, so maybe I go with the flow again. And then I started to do acupuncture, and clearly there was a lot of things blocked in my system. Because, you know, when you talk to acupuncture people, it's like, well, there's this energy blocked and that, and it's like, okay, what does it mean? You know, like, it affects your lymphatic system and here in your legs and blah blah. We're like, how much acupuncture can I do to this body function again? This is endless.
Yeah.
So clearly I didn't really understand. And then I was in LA for, let's say, about 6 months, like in a very bad place. And somehow it happened that I remember I was painting some piece somewhere, and I got a message of this dude who is someone like a shaman. I was like, I literally felt I'm gonna die soon. I felt like I'm literally God. Everything was breaking down, and I had energies like it came back, and then it died. Like I was sick right away. It's completely fucked up. But so I remember I had the thoughts already. I was like, well, there was a reason why I've never done psychedelics much when I was younger, because I was aware of that there's something brewing deep down somewhere where I wasn't ready to look at it. And then I was like, well, I'm gonna die anyways, so fuck it, I will do that. That was just a thought process, like where I know this happened, and suddenly I get this message out of the blue, and the dude talks about like a death rebirth experience. I was like, okay, that sounds like something quite interesting. If I'm gonna die, I want to feel. I want to know how it feels.
Right.
Well, into the detail, it's it was the toad medicine, the 5-MeO DMT, the Bufo alvarius, also called. I did not do much research on it. I was like, whatever. I'm on a point where it doesn't matter how much I read.
Yeah.
Like, if it helps, it helps. If not, like already in a deep, not even aware of, but a deep letting go process of myself and my life, I would say. So I'm not much later, I went there after being so depressed, and that depression is also something I was not. It's like it came in with all this stuff, and I was depressed and alone with it. And also I understood that I'm not completely alone with this, because the doctors cannot help. So I knew this is something I have to work out for myself. And reality check: if we die, we die by ourselves, right? Yeah. So yeah, I went there, and I had the most intense dying through pain, letting go of the pain of existence to fully live experience. Where I came out of it like I spiraled down into information. The first thing when I let go of life was like something telling me, it was like, finally, we were waiting for you for so long. Like, this was for you. This was waiting for you for the longest time. And then finally you made it. It was literally like, you've been chosen to do this, to wake the fuck up.
Wow.
So it's literally like you're eating the red pill in the Matrix, right? So literally the moment when Neo gets sucked in, like this, and he wakes up in the other side of the Matrix, it felt that way. And way more intense. Yeah. So like I remember there was a moment where I tried to hold on to my life because of the fear, and then there's this moment that the pain is so intense. We're like, fuck this. This is the last moment in this life, and it's like, that's the moment when the DMT opens up the pineal gland as much that you can actually exit and upload yourself to the higher consciousness. And then you're out, and you're one with everything and nothing at the same time. And it hurts to feel completely happy in all the ways until nothing exists anymore and you don't exist anymore. So that was super powerful. And when I came back about 15 minutes later, first of all, I was so in bliss, and I felt mentally cleaned up in a way. I was like, damn, not that I know that I've been there many times. I knew that right away. And it felt like I went home and I came back into this life again. So for a moment, a moment which I perceived at that point, 10,000 years of information I started to download. Yeah, and that, so first of all, depression was completely wiped out because I understood it is just a condition of our being, where our ego is, or our spirit is fighting with the ego, because we have gotten ourselves into a situation where we are not supposed to be, maybe, if you want to say so. And then I was just so like, wow, life, how beautiful this third dimension is. We exist in this plane of this life reality. And that from that point on, I had I understood that all the fear I still have in this life is just the fear of life itself, and not of death, because I already died. I already did that. So from that point on, I feel like that was the point when I was open enough energetically to understand, and also just to let go of everything which had blocked my gut, and also had all the stuff, I was like, fuck this, I don't need that shit, let it out. So, and then literally on the next day, I started to do Tai Chi out of nothing. I didn't even know. There's something deeply rooted in my genetic memory came out, and I did Tai Chi for 8 months straight, every day for like 2 hours.
Wow.
Wow.
And I started to sweat things out, and I started to release, and I started to understand what life for me is about and how an energy flows. I could see, I started to meditate. I started understanding meditation. I started to scan my body during meditation and where the energies block. And that brings me back to, here's anatomy, and then there's the energy gateways through our body where the energy has to flow, so our organs and our whole system actually works, and it stays in a healthy like way of how this machine actually can flow, which is, Western medicine doesn't really work that way, but Eastern medicine does. And then clearly I dove into Eastern medicine way more and into meditation, and I allowed myself to feel all the pain. But I also understood, and that brings us back to the art, I understood that the visions I had since I was a kid had all to do with traumas from lifetimes, not just from this life, maybe triggered again in this life, but like spiraling down in the endlessness of our conscious collective everything.
Right.
And then I'm like, I understood that loads of my drawings I did before had to do with my past and the traumatic experiences. And then I knew that everything what comes to me right now in this moment, and I have to paint. I have to let it go by painting it. And yeah, then in this process of integrating this experience, which was about 8 months long, I had a show at Mirus Gallery called The Endless Layers Till Consciousness. So that was already kind of like, I was already shifting that way, and because I wanted to know what's there, where like we shed like we shed all the layers until we get to where all the information sits, which speaks to us. And in this process, I understood that as an artist, as a painter or a musician or whatever, we are destined to heal ourselves with, we carry trauma, we paint it, we let it go, and it affects because we are collective. So it affects everyone. That's how we feel attracted to art in general. And I knew that if I heal myself, I heal other people with it. And I wanted to let that energy flow into my work. And after that show in San Francisco, I wanted to completely commit for 3 years, or like as long as it takes, to this. And the funny thing is, the more I did that, the healthier I got. And yeah, like the pain everywhere just started to get less and less. And in 2000, so I started in 2000, end of 2018, beginning of 2019, and it was painful. It was painful, very painful, but the visions, I just stuck to painting those visions, and there was so much more. I couldn't even paint it all, right? And this show already contains 100 paintings. Yeah. So and it's been 3 years. Yeah, and in the meditation of scanning myself, becoming aware of the energy centers, which we know, the chakras, the whole rainbow scenario which we carry, and how this builds reality, and how this is the key to our inner healing, and all those teachings. I don't read books about esoteric teachings or whatever. It's just like, it has just come to me. It has downloaded in a very, very intense way by letting myself feel every pain in the sacral chakra and the solar plexus, where all those emotions sit. And I guess I had just a lot of also anger sitting in my, since the emotions sit in the gut, it just cramped everything up, and I had to let go of all this stuff. The funny thing is, the more things opened up for me, I could tell how my family was energetically reacting to it, so they got healthier and healthier as well.
Wow.
And it's with step by step. It's like, wow, damn, like how much can this actually be part of the healing of the collective, you know? And I know that there's a lot of people doing different ways of doing this, and I feel like that's, if you look at the world and right now what's happening, I feel like that shift is, I mean, especially here in America or in California, you can feel that on every corner. And again, I feel like I was supposed to come here. Do this here in LA. It's my very first show in Los Angeles, and I wanted to do something epic where people can truly connect to. Yes.
But can I ask you, where, first of all, thank you for sharing all of that. You answered honestly a lot of questions we were going to ask you.
Yeah.
Which is great. I love it. But
down, you know.
Yeah, no, that's
You're reading our minds.
Yeah, I went down the
third eye, you know.
But I'm curious, you know, aside from the trauma that you're talking about, the collective consciousness, where do you think the source of that anger for you personally was coming from? Was this also from, you had talked about, you know, I think at the surface level, when people look at your work with this dissection of animals and people, they can very easily logically trace that back to your childhood of growing up in a hunting family. And that's usually what people talk to you about. But that to me, it seems like surface level now that we're speaking in what you're talking about, you know. So where do you think that anger originally stemmed from?
Yeah, this was completely weird to me too. It's like, where does it come from? Where, you know, and especially in that time where I started to do the dissection work, I know that it was driven by a lot of anger. And the trigger happened again in this life, clearly, but I understood pretty quickly that this is already much, much older. So I understood that how old it was, clearly I couldn't perceive until I started to meditate. But so here, starting at what you just said, like I mean, I grew up in a hunting family. Like the question is, why do I, if you take the concept, let's say, of incarnation, reincarnation in account, why do I incarnate into a family of hunters? So that must be an energy which is going down, spiraling down like many lifetimes, you know. And I've understood that I have always been either an artist or a warrior, but before artists even existed, hunters existed, because that's our primal truth, you know. So the warrior is more like the hunter and the warrior, they are kind of connected, clearly. The artistic creative expression is our deepest creative energy, which we are here to, you know, we are here to be creative. We are here in this material world to create more stuff. Doesn't matter if it's another life, you know, or art or buildings or whatever. We are actually here to create a world, you know. This is how the universe, the driving force of the universe, and so that sits in all of us. So I was wondering, like, okay, it was like there must be something behind it. Why do I incarnate into this family where I watch my dad dissecting animals already at the age of 3, and I'm like, damn, I was sick. not even being scared or anything. It's like I was more like, oh, this is how we look inside. It looked like inside, you know. I also knew exactly that an animal and like humans, we are completely the same in the age of 3. We know. But then my dad was like, oh, this is the liver, you know, this is this and this stuff. We don't eat that. We give it to the dogs. You know, the dogs go crazy and it smells really bad and stuff like that. And I'm like, I remember I was just astonished. I was like, wow, this is wild, you know, but in a more like I was sucking up all of it, you know.
Yeah.
But also almost like, it was almost like it triggered a memory. And it's like I knew about this already. So like, not going too deep into this, but you know, you are a warrior there and you kill some people with knives or swords, and you know, guts are spilling out, and then you die on some weird occasion. You'll be reborn as a monk in the, let's say, in the Inquisition, and then you are interested how the human body actually works, and then you do research on that, and then you get murdered because you're defiling God, you know, because nobody can heal you, only God can. And you know, like heart transplant was not a thing, even though we would work on medicine and stuff, you know. So this is just like a, you know, and so let's say it's almost like the soul is caught in a spiral of our own karmic madness, and we are here to find our way out, kind of, you know. And yeah, whatever we feel attracted to is what we already know, what we have learned in the past. So when I look back at my childhood, and I still remember very much how clear I perceived the world before I went into a very, let's say, before the school system, you know, started to like morph our minds, and we have to be the machines of this society. So this is like, as a kid, you're so open and you're asking questions like nobody can answer, and you also don't really know what you do with the information you have right now by downloads. And those downloads are, to me, I know they are important for developing our character as a kid or as a young human being. And I feel like we also learn languages or learn how to behave or like play the air guitar as a 2-year-old because we have done that stuff already before. And that also was pretty clear to me that I'm from a young age, I'm going to be a painter because I've been a painter many times before. I can do that already.
Yeah.
I'm taking the easy road. I'm not learning something new. I'm just trying to get better with this. So, and also like clearly, like good things manifest in our lives, bad things manifest too. So let's just say being like several samurai past lives are not good to any kind of anger thing with loads of carnage and seppuku and you know like learning and studying about old Japanese ideas or ideals, even like letting go of the old is not necessarily the way. It's not the Bushido of the warrior. So you know, I became aware of that pretty quickly. So just stuff which was pouring out of me, and you can literally, during the meditation, I can literally feel how it rises through the nervous system, my spine up to the brain, and then the pineal gland just literally goodbye. But sometimes you gotta scream it out, sometimes you gotta cry it out, you know, and you gotta paint it out if you're destined to do so. We all have our different ways.
Well, I've heard a lot of people, friends of mine, talk about having like an ego death experience on DMT, and you know, they have similar kinds of stories. They have those kinds of realizations, and I have not tried DMT yet, and I'm not sure if I'm mentally ready for that, you know.
Same.
Overall. But I will say that I am personally, you know, through my artwork, I'm trying to figure it out too, and I'm trying to figure out why I'm doing it and the reasons, and why, like you're saying, being attracted to certain things, and you know, why do I have like a morbid fascination over scary things and growing up on horror movies and stuff? Why was that, you know? And so I think it's interesting to explore that stuff regardless of whether or not you end up going on this like enlightening journey, or you're just, you know, you're just trying to do some kind of inner work and work on yourself and figure some of that stuff out. I think it's a necessity for artists to do that. Yes. You have to. You got to figure out why, at least a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
And once you start unlocking some of those doors, you end up making artwork that, you know, number one, helps you, but it also definitely helps other people, you know, because other people do experience some of the same things that we're going through, and they can connect to that. So
yes,
yeah.
Yes,
Um,
and eventually also like maybe create from a place which is even more powerful than anger, place
right.
of love. You want to create from a place where you touch everyone, and not from a egoic perspective, just from actually a deep healing perspective. Like I very deeply believe it's like the more you have worked on yourself and you create, that is gonna be powerful for everyone.
Creative Conquest.
Eric Cody Lamarca says, in a week of financial pressure, rent raised $175 USD a month and some crazy expenses, my artwork came to the rescue and really saved my ass. I was able to sell the artist proof of this piece for decent money. This is a victory due to it takes money to create. I'm not one of those money obsessed artists, not at all. However, it is nice to know that my newfound passion is somewhat sustainable. It's a good feeling. I love to create, and well, it's the small victories. Also, I love the piece sold. Eric, congratulations on that. That is really cool. I love that feeling of knowing that what you love to do can also help sustain it too. So congrats on that. Cecilia von Giegerfeld says, I've started giving myself time to create in the evenings again. I've missed it so. I'm experimenting with markers and finding new ways to use them right now. So fun. Some things go well, some things go less well, but I learn a lot. Congrats on that, Cecilia. Whenever you make extra time for art, especially when you've been away from it for a while, it's really nourishing to the soul. So congrats on that. Amy Raguti says, made it to an art market feeling much better after another dumb car accident and sold a little painting that was rather devoid of content, but fun to make. It's good to know that you are recovering from your car accident. But also, I want to say that this painting that you had posted in the Creative Conquest for this past week was not devoid of content. There was a UFO in there. There were hearts. There was like a third eye that was shaped like a heart, all kinds of stuff. So I would say that it was not devoid of content. So I have to respectfully disagree with you. If you want to share your Creative Conquest with us, you can find us on Facebook at the Drawing from Experience Creative Community. Now back to the show.
And I remember you mentioning too in the past that you wanted to, moving forward, create from more of a place of love. And in the past, a lot of your work may have been reflected by those feelings of pain and anger. And do you foresee moving forward a shift in your work as you continue to come from more of that place of wanting to create from love?
Yeah, I mean, I feel, first of all, it is an endless ongoing journey in this third dimension through our lifetime. But the Awakening show is about showing the shifts that already happened in my work, a deeper understanding of myself, and yeah, it's as soon as you walk into the next corner, after the more aggressive anatomy work, it's all about the inner healing, and it's way more emotional than showing the anatomy of Mickey, or Bambi or whatever,
Yeah.
So, but that, clearly pop culture communicates to people a lot because that's what we connected to. But that as soon as you turn the corner and you walk into that prison we built in the gallery, it's like you can literally feel the energy there. It's like, holy shit, there's so much deeper power going on, and I have witnessed myself painting things I would have not painted a couple of years ago, and opening myself up, not just in techniques or just the storytelling or the topic itself. And we also, going along with the show, we had produced a book which literally connects piece by piece like a story, and we have written stuff. So when you say we, I say my team from Rapid Eye Movement has helped me a lot with putting my realizations down and connect one piece by another. The thing is, like, things come out in a way, however they come out, and the story is like, oh, this is actually exactly this, and this piece is here, this connects to this piece, and then you, in the end, you're like, damn, this is literally the whole story of what is actually going on. And I feel like reading this, same as in 2020, I spent 2 months of doing illustrations also connected to that, and I made a book about it, and I called it the 1111, which is also connected by the story. So this book and the 1111 and the Awakening book, they like, it's kind of like one story, not following like a straight line. So and you tie it in, and then this straight line becomes visible, and you, as someone who is doesn't really know about my work much, or clearly hasn't connected yet to what this shift was doing, or what came out of me, reading this book is like, okay, I get it. You know, I get the realizations. I get where this is going. We also wrote in a way that it doesn't sound like completely crazy out there, I believe, you know, but that's also, again, perception of the individual. Let's see. I'm very happy. As soon as we had the book together, I was like, it has all come to a point where now this we can finally present to a wider perspective. And the funny thing is, literally, like the last bits, which I'm still clearing things out during my meditation, but I feel fine now. I digest again. And that's literally been in the last couple of weeks, like following up to this show. It's been powerful. Like the things in my head, I had a whole year of clearing trauma connected to heavy metal energy. I had a poison. I was poisoned, I guess, or I had a poisoning carrying in my head by heavy metals. So I had metal fluid leaking out of my ears by letting go of this stuff for a whole year.
Oh.
It sounds intense. It was intense. It was mostly mercury and lead. And where does this shit come from? I have no idea.
Oh my God. Wait,
yeah.
So was that from paints?
No.
No.
I mean, the paint could have been a trigger, but so could have been my attraction to heavy metal music as a trigger, right? Again, whatever we feel attracted to doesn't matter if it's we don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, right? So
right.
The heavy metal music I've been listening to has definitely had a lot of messages from me already, where I'm like, wait, this has to do with me. You know, this is sitting, again, same as the paint, music transport the same things we are connected to. So it's this web of information which speaks to us, right? So the trigger, clearly the paint is a heavy metal trigger, but it was not it. It was probably a little bit a part of it, but it wasn't what poisoned me. And then later on, I found out that I had early, when I was 2 years old, I had scarlet fever, mumps, and another one very similar sickness, I forgot, literally in a row. And in the 80s in Europe, what they did, they tried to use mercury as a vaccine for those kind of things.
Oh.
And so, you know, that stuff stays in your system. And in 2015, I had a bicycle accident where I fell on my shoulder and kind of like cracked my neck a little bit. And I feel like that is again a reoccurring pattern in the matrix. But for me to understand, it all got stuck. So it was spiraling in my midbrain around the third eye, until the third eye was like, fuck this, let's open and let's release this stuff. So it was literally like a defense mechanism by my whole body system and spirit itself. So the deeper question is, so was this mercury and lead, or this mercury vaccine, when I was 2 years old, already preparing me for what is coming later in my life, most likely. So the universe does crazy things.
Wow.
I just find it astonishing. It's like how you can be so like physically ill. I mean, on the brink of like your organs failing, and to be able to come out of that. And you said with no traditional medicine, right? Just through Eastern medicinal practices. And that's astonishing to me.
Yeah. Being open to understanding and acknowledging your own bullshit. You can say it's like whatever is lying deep inside of you, is like where the information sits to, it's
Wow.
I have understood during the meditation is that when I sit there and I breathe, I can connect to every area where the pain sits, and it was literally for 3 years, it was a weekly thing. So I was like, I have a little pain here. What is it? And I meditated into it, and I could really see how I entered the yellow solar plexus chakra, and the solar plexus chakra is connected to our nervous system, and the nervous system reaches deep into the cellular memory, because it all sits in our cells, right? That's where it is transported, and it literally drags it out. And for me, being a very visual person, it just uploads an information as some vision. But is it a vision or is it a memory? From the perspective of that, let's say we can get inspired, we can have how should I say things popping up in our mind, and like, oh, I have this idea, or I have this I can like build this scenario in my head. But is it really something like, I think everything we can imagine already exists somewhere else, or has existed. Or the next question is, does the future, the past, and the present exist at the same time? What is time? So
this you can go down the entire the whole rabbit hole.
But the thing, yes, exactly. So the thing is, you look at it, in the end, when it's there, it doesn't even matter. The fact is, it is there, and then you like, okay, one more thing, which makes me being afraid of life, so I don't need it anymore, and I let it go. I meditate on it, and I meditate into the pain, and understanding that the pain, feeling, being courageous enough to feel the pain, that's the moment when the pain goes away. And every time I let this out, sometimes I howl it out, I scream it out, but it's gone afterwards. And that's how it works, pretty much. I feel like it's very, very interesting for us, or better for us, to imagine how this energy field works on a visual level, when you say like, okay, we can reach into this yellow color and grab into. I see it, everything. I mean, I know enough about the physical body that I can also add the energetic strength of the nervous system to it. So I see it in a physical sense, and then it triggers the information. And then I'm like, wow, Roman past life, blah, 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 for example. Or it doesn't even matter, clearly we are also connected to our family, and we are also here to heal things our family members have gone through. So all kinds of things, so much fun.
Wow. Yeah. So, oh man, there's so many like questions I have for you now that just this conversation, like, it's like, I could look at your videos online and your social media presence and your artwork and stuff, and come up with a million questions out of that, which is essentially what we've done to prepare for today. But now this has triggered like a ton of other questions. But what I do want to talk about is, as your artwork stands today in the present time on this earth right now, and what it means to you, and a lot about like leaving your mark on the, literally the face of buildings, the planet, and everything. And literally in the sense of leaving a spot that says that you were here.
Mhm.
After coming out of this, once you're done with this opening, I know from doing my own solo shows and featured shows afterwards, like that period of time of just like all of that energy going away, and then having to like recollect everything and take some time and going through that entire thing. But you don't just do gallery shows, you do these giant murals that require a lot of energy as well. And then you also, at the root of it, starting on the streets, tagging buildings and stuff. So I was really curious just about what it means for you, the difference between, 6 cans in your backpack versus assembling a crew or something to do a giant mural. What is the difference of what that means to you in relation to leaving your mark?
Well, to really understand that, you also got to go through all the phases. I had my good share of hitting the streets with it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a graffiti world. It's intensely ego driven too.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm everywhere. I'm the one. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's literally about just claiming your spot.
Yeah, it's like a dog pissing on the corner. And you pissed when someone else pisses over yours. So I feel like back then I understood pretty quickly when I did this quite a lot, also with doing the rabbit eye movement and painting rabbit throw-ups for a year. I understood that, okay, cool. Now you have done a little bit for the fame, people, you know that you're out there, but I was missing the creative development in this year. I was like, yeah, but you didn't get yourself further. There's so much more to say, So the graffiti itself, the letter graffiti for me is literally workout and fun. And I also randomly, by not thinking too much about it, come across new techniques or ideas where I can just jam with myself on the graffiti, and I paint a letter piece or add some character to it, whatever. I'm like, damn, I could work that into my other work. So it's like, here again, the energies kind of like feed each other. The thing is, when I'm too exhausted by studio work, my head is about to explode because I've been sitting and I'm also someone who patience was not my biggest thing ever. So it took me a long time to chill myself down to just paint in the studio. I feel like a lot of that I have learned in this process, because patience is very necessary for all this. But the spray can and the fat cat and me are become one clearly. And I do need to go out. Like every time I feel like completely uninspired and just drained, I do go out and paint pieces for a week or two and just get back into the wild and do some stuff and hang out with the boys, and we go into the desert and paint or whatever, have a little bit of action, action going on. And it's also like physically, it's very, very, if you don't go to the gym, you go and paint some crazy walls and climb up the ladder for 4 hours straight, your legs will do the work, and so that helps, and I don't do it for a while, and I haven't done it much lately. I feel like every day I wake up, I'm like, oh, everything hurts. I really work out here, which is amazing. And also mentally, I feel like with the speed of graffiti, it helps me, since my mind works also so fast. Like I think about something and it's changed. It goes like this. The brush is just way of a longer process, clearly. But I get into a flow of all the states, physically, mentally, spiritually, if you want. And it's just like, and then I listen to music which supports it, and I'm like, I'm channeling in this moment, and I'm gone. I'm completely me, and this graffiti are one in this moment, and that's when I can feel that that's like my happy place, and I get so inspired, and I'm happy to go back to the studio and paint. And with the murals, it's the same thing, with just on a way bigger scale. And it is, I mean, clearly it's work, but it's also like, sometimes I paint murals and I was like, oh, this is gonna be hard this time, and then it's almost done, and I'm like, I barely feel like I've totally done, though, I didn't really completely emerge with what I was doing. But on the other hand, it just painted itself somehow, So it's like, it's literally, it is, painting murals is definitely, let's say I painted graffiti for so long, and painting it bigger, and not just the size, also like how complex it is, and how I mean, this whole translucency thing only developed on the wall. That idea just came to me while painting walls, and pushing it is what I know is gonna bring me further. And also, again, here, like facing those fears of painting over parts and fading translucent parts over complete finished.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you have to basically complete these, you have to do this in layers. And once you get to that final layer of the X-ray effect and that translucent effect, no going back once you make that mark. So you have to make sure that every moment is precise. Do you still harbor a little bit of fear when you're painting in those scenarios?
This is funny, because, and I know this has to do with this whole thing which happened to me in 2015, literally maybe 8 months before I got sick. I wrote in my book, like, I did it already on walls, and I messed up a bunch of walls. But I also I've written the stages of doing what I want to do, and then I have in red, it says, do not have any fear of fucking up. And from that point on, I was like, I don't have any, like, no fear. No fear is the key to develop your style. And if you're like, oh, I just spent hours on painting those bones and those veins and stuff, and then and those organs and all those effects, and now I'm fading over everything. It's like, it's not on Photoshop, you do another layer. Like, you fade on top of it. If you do too much, you have to paint everything again. And hey, it happens, but whatever,
there's nothing you can do anyways.
It's just here. The fear is only in our mind.
I gotta say that there's I lived in San Francisco for 5.5 years. I just moved to LA at the end of 2020. So when I arrived in San Francisco in 2015, I instantly saw your work. That's when I was introduced to your work, and I was just like, what are these murals? And a couple of years ago, I did a mural at the Salesforce Transit Center, and right across from there is your bat mural, that huge freaking mural. And this thing that I was working on, I was actually hired by another artist to do his design, because I guess he couldn't physically do it. It was really difficult for me. It was like, I don't know, 40 feet across or something like that. Or
was it a brick wall?
No, it was actually glass. It was, it was really smooth, but it was on this, we were painting on this like film on the glass so they could take it off if they needed to. It was just like, I hadn't done something that size in a long time, and every day. And I was also doing somebody else's style too, because I was hired to do it. So it was really just like, it was pretty frustrating for me. And then so I'd show up every day and I'd look at your mural, and I was like, if this dude can do this, I can come over here and do this thing. Like, I just needed ladders, it wasn't a huge lift or anything like that. Like, I was like, my job is easy, but I use your mural as like getting some energy and some clarity over what's possible. Yeah. Awesome. So that's thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You see that this shows me this is exactly what I'm saying. I guess I did my job there.
You did. Yeah. And you didn't even know it until right this moment. So, thank you.
It's the best. It's the best. Well, I thank you.
We wanted to talk to you about collaboration on these murals. you were part of these two different crews, or are part of the Weird Crew and the Lord's Crew. I know personally with working with other people that it actually took me a while to figure out how to work with collaboration. I can just imagine when you're working with these bigger crews, 5 to 10 muralists that all have their own style, they all have their own ideas, they all want to bring their own energy to a project. What was that process for you? And just working with other people, and how do you actually work that all out, as far as who does what, and and also everyone's on their own journey as well and figuring out their own thing. And what was that process like for you?
Well, it's also different in the crews too. The approach of the Weird is, most of them have the origin in graffiti. Not everyone. Most of them have been painting their letters. Some have never painted letters, but they all only they have been those illustrators always, and they want have with the graffiti aspect of painting characters, which made it much easier for us because we had a mutual understanding how we build our work. Like on that, when we met, it was like the time was right, because we all felt like we were on the same spot. We wanted to have fun, and we wanted to paint really weird characters, right? So that's why we also called ourselves the Weird. And also jam and have the fun part is the part which actually made it happen in the end. And some things are happen really spontaneous. Like there's we come up with a color concept, and then we put down the individual sketches of the characters, and I'm like, I paint here, and then when we paint, and I was like, oh yeah, mine could do this, and yours does this, and this is how we connect. And it's so fucking stupid, and it's amazing again. So that worked really well with the Weird. Of course, a lot of times we had an overall topic where we're like, okay, let's do this, so we kind of connect later, and this is the overall idea, and everyone shall draw onto that, and then we merge them together somehow. So that created some of the sickest, dumbest murals also. And we had last year, we had 10 years the Weird, and within those 10 years, at year 5, we could already tell that everyone was going in more and more, since we pushed each other also so much. Everyone was working so hard on pushing the technique and also his own thing. And I was already in the dissection and work already for a while, and then Dexter started to pixel all his stuff, and then others started to do just more things or get crazier with what they've been doing already before, and you can tell that the overall idea kind of started to drift apart, as you said. Everyone is starting his own journey, and then it's a little hard to come back together because everyone has expectations of his own creation. And everything I say is look, we gotta, if we really want to have fun and jam, we gotta come back and break ourselves down to where we were. This is where our base is. We have to go back to our base and not have any expectations if we want to create a great mural, and out of fun, and not of the drive of making the sickest individual and artwork right now. Yeah. The artwork exists through us and not by one. And there were points where I'm like, I'm not sure if I can do that anymore. There was a lot of conflict also, which I feel drove us a little bit apart throughout the years. But I'm also pretty convinced that as soon as everyone has paid his dues in whatever way he has, we will come back together, because we're still all really good friends. With other crews like the Lords, it's a very old crew. It has its graffiti roots deep, an old in California, and also other places. And there's a lot of people, and a lot of very different people, but it starts with graffiti from the late 80s or mid 80s. Or people who have never ever had an approach to graffiti as I had. I totally understand, because I've been a student to this forever. Let's say I come from a generation where we opened the many of us just opened ourselves up to like, oh, I can paint some graffiti, and I'll paint some characters, and I'll paint some huge characters, and I don't care because it's all me, you know. Others are like, I'm gonna paint my letters because that's what I know how to do, and this is what I do, and this is why I love it, which is great. You know, it's great. Finding a consent is a little bit of a, it's harder. It's mostly that I bring myself to the point where I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna jam with the homies, you know, and end up doing all the background, and or you know, but in the end, hey, it's supposed to be about fun, especially graffiti should be about fun, and that many do forget that, I believe, and it's also connecting with other people and other mindsets and inspire each other, you know, and we are also like friends, and we do a lot of other things together too, not just paint graffiti. So let's just all just have fun. So, and but also, since everyone is on this journey, it's not happening that much that we are getting together. And the cool thing is, for this show, a lot of my homies from the Boss crew are coming from San Francisco, and also the lords from Austria have just arrived in LA too. So you know, it's like the show has become like this huge family meeting, you can say. It's amazing.
Awesome. Man, that's so great. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the director of the majority of your films. Christian Fisher.
Yes.
I just really quickly just wanted to say that like they do like an amazing job, and there's like a ton of these videos out there, and it seems like they just follow you around to all these places and document parts of your life. So I just wanted to make a quick note about that.
Yeah, I mean, Christian lives in Vienna, and I have met him in the very beginning of his career. He grew with the deepest depths of the Boro into this. As you know, I was like, hey, we get along. You know, you understand what this is about. You understand the deeper idea of all of it. Let's go travel the world.
Yeah. I mean, he seems like he was along for the ride, which is that documentary is amazing. And it really gives you a good sense of what that lifestyle is like, you know. And me being like a studio artist, I'm stuck in here all the time. I rarely get to travel. Whenever I do any traveling, it has to do with my artwork. But I think it just gives you this really nice perspective on how you come into a city and you kind of honor the city as well, just by like showing up and putting up a new mural or something like that, you know. So I think it was really well put together, and these little also like other snippets, these other videos out there have a good perspective on, you know, what your life is like as Nychos. So
yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it was you know, back then when I started thinking about the concept for the deepest depths of Boro, was like, what the world is missing is the connection. We all see a ton of graffiti, but nobody understands what's behind it. And I also wanted to share it with like a very good energy, you know, in the sense of like, hey, we are people from completely different cultures, all over the world, doing things, we like create things in probably the biggest art movement in the world ever. And we connect through the internet. We don't even have to speak the same language, but on another level we do. So, you know, you go out there and you paint an amazing piece with someone who doesn't even speak English or German or whatever. It doesn't matter. And
it's like making music too. Like it's the same. You don't have to speak the same language as long as you can feel that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that just operates on a different level. We don't have no borders anymore or any other, you know, like society bullshit, which we cramp ourselves into. And I wanted to show it like how intense and how far this goes. And when we have like during the filming, I mean, we have Italy, we completely left out, and we always wanted to do Paris. We wanted to go paint the catacombs in Paris, and when we started to like I spent a couple of weeks in Paris before that, and I understood quickly with the connections we made on the way. It's like, damn, just for Paris, we need another movie, you know? So it's like, The Deepest Depths of the Borough was more like, you can almost say this is like one tiny part of an endless journey. Like this movie, you can just stretch out. Like there's so much to explore. Like people are doing different things, and then there's new people coming into the game, and with other approaches, and this is just an organism which just grows, and showing that is I feel like that's what was missing, because the majority of people have no idea. And the Deepest Depths of the Borough was like, I wanted to be the rabbit who leads people into the deepest depths of the Borough, and to show them what is really behind all of that, and how great of an energy this really can be.
Yeah. And I think what really resonated with me too, at the end of Deepest Depths of the Borough documentary is at the end, how there was talk of just the community and that camaraderie that is created through working together, and coming from different cultures and having the same common goal of being able to freely create. That really resonated with me. And I think that as artists, you know, across the board, whether we're visual artists, graffiti artists, I mean, that's our goal here with our podcast as well, is to bring artists together. So it really resonated with me how you guys touched upon how the community is built around this, and how it's probably inspired so many artists too. You know, how much inspiration you guys have created for other artists too who are coming up in this world.
Yeah, I wish this I guess it's your job, and this is my job in this whole thing. And well, there's definitely, it's been a long idea. I mean, I remember at the very first premiere, me and Christian were already talking about part 2, and it's been 7 years, which is crazy when I think about it. But since I feel like it's time soon to start part 2 in whatever sense. Let's see if Christian is down to do more, or how this develops. Cool. I definitely want to do more of that kind of stuff. Travel again in paint and be healthy.
Well, have him listen to this podcast. Maybe this will kick his ass a little bit to to start.
He definitely needs some ass kicking.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, what does the rest of the year look like for you after the show and everything? I'm assuming you have some murals plans, and what are you doing for the rest of the year?
Well, first of all, I tried to not plan anything. I wanted to actually chill for a moment, which is,
feel like you deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I will definitely, there are a bunch of walls lined up in LA. I'm gonna paint. Cool. To get back into the groove again also, and be out there. And also, it's just good after this COVID year and all the other stuff that, you know, I'm also physically like, you know, starting the machine again.
Yeah.
And getting physically a little stronger, which happens with the graffiti. It just happens like this, which is great. But I also wanted to spend some time in LA and in California to go surfing as much as I can. It's another reason why I ended up in California, I believe. And actually, you know, in those years I'm here, I feel like I haven't even like really sucked in California as much as I would have liked. But let's see, you know, like, there is already like another huge project in Austria, like emerging, which I do not like to miss out. And I got invited to Lima, to Peru, and also to France for other projects. So I'm like, yeah, let's see how it goes. And then there's clearly like other works with my team, and also like, you know, clearly there's this NFT world, which we want to dive into a little bit, but you can only do so much.
Yeah. You guys are actually selling tickets too through NFTs as well, right?
Yes.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. How does that work exactly?
You're asking the wrong guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, they just set it up.
Yeah.
No, we had to.
But it looked like it looked like you can gain entry through the NFT purchase anyways, right? You can gain a physical entry to
Yes.
the show.
Yes.
I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, we were like, why not selling NFTs, and with that blockchain thing, you can actually get into the show. I feel like this NFT stuff is gonna be all over the place. Why not doing it something like that too? And it's literally like it has a size of a museum show. So we wanted to, or talking to the gallery, we were like, we have to ask for an entry fee, but we were like, yeah, but let's give people something, and the NFT thing is just perfect. So you buy an NFT for like not much, to be honest, and you can get into the show, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And there will be other NFTs also available in the show, but yeah, we built that very old illustration of the rabbit dissecting, and kind of like the Donnie Darko approach.
Right.
Which is really funny. Yeah.
I saw that at the LA art show, and then I visited Mirus. I've been to Mirus twice, and so I got a chance to see them on the screens there, and it's awesome. He's like break dancing.
Yes.
And then he goes.
We were like, what can he do? It's like, he needs to break dance. He needs to do some funny, dumb shit.
It's great.
And then he's showing off the spray can or the roller, or the pen or the knife or the scalpel. So it's me and my friend, we like to jam on that, and he helps me with the 3D work, and I do all the artwork for it, and it's just so much fun. Like animation in general is something I always wanted to do, and my friend and me, we get along very well on this together, like how we think, and it makes it somehow easy. And with the NFT work we have shown so far, we were like, we are just starting to, so we can do so much more. And but also mainly we want to show it because we want to do more ambitious animation projects, and maybe that could meld together with the Deepest Depths of the Burrow. We did 2D animations on the Deepest Depths of the Burrow already. So yeah, let's see. Like there's loads of amazing dumb shit to explore.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who have been listening and don't know where to find you online, where are the best places to find what you're doing on social media and on the interwebs?
Well, Instagram, of course, is pretty much on the pulse most of the time, and Nychos Instagram, or Rabbit Eye Movement for the products we're releasing through our 2 web shops, one in Europe and one in California. So that's run by my team, and then clearly Nychos.com or rabbiteyemovement.at or .com. This is the best places, I would say. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Nychos, dude, man, I could talk to you for another 3 hours. I feel like about dissecting so many Pandora's box. Yeah. But
thank you so much for taking the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys, and I hope you guys come to the show.
Yeah, I have yet to get my ticket, but I live so close to there, so I gotta come see.
Excellent. Means we are neighbors.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Don't tell anyone.
I won't tell
I wish
anyone.
I could be there in person.
Yeah, Stefania's in Rhode Island, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of the country. So.
Oh, you have 3 months to see it.
Oh,
yeah.
There we go. 3 months.
So I have no excuse not to.
If you guys enjoyed this episode, you can stream and download previous episodes on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or our website, drawingfromexperience.com. If you can rate and review on iTunes or Spotify, we would greatly appreciate it. You can also find the Drawing from Experience creative community on Facebook and share your work in there with us. And you can find us on Instagram at DFE Podcast or patreon.com/drawingfromexperience. Stefania, where do we find your work online?
You can find my Instagram at Stefania Medeiros _, and you can find me on Patreon as patreon.com/Stefania Medeiros.
And you can find my personal work at shaneizykowski.com or patreon.com/Shane Izykowski, or on Instagram or Facebook at Shane Izykowski Artist. Nychos, thank you again. We really appreciate it. And I cannot wait to see The Awakening. It is going to be awesome. I'm super stoked. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks so much for chatting with us.
Thank you.
It was great. Thank you. So much fun. I'm prepared for the next. Cool, guys.
The Drawing from Experience podcast is co-produced by me, Shane Izykowski, and Stefani Medeiros, with editing by me and support coming from our Patreon at patreon.com/drawingfromexperience. And our sponsors. If you'd like to be a sponsor, you can contact us at dfepodcast@gmail.com.